Speak today. Today we're going to talk a little bit about de-risking, debanking, and how technology can really help solve many of the problems that we're seeing in risk management in that space. So I'm very quickly going to give you a quick, a brief intro to what it is that we are. Let me just go ahead and show that. Thanks so much. Okay, so a quick background into what we're going to talk about today, and particularly with debanking and de-risking. What do we mean by that? And to set the stage to where we're going to go to, which is where technology is really making a lot of improvements in our day-to-day processes. So in the context of financial institutions, when we talk about debanking, we're really talking about the phenomenon of financial institutions terminating or restricting business relationships with clients or categories of clients to just avoid the risk as opposed to mitigating it. So that's one thing that we really are seeing a current trend in, and it's kind of sad because it does have a lot of adverse effects throughout the rest of the industry. So some of those adverse consequences we can see here include, the closing off of financial access to many groups. We're seeing a consolidation in correspondent banking. So it's being consolidated into very large institutions. It's closing out the market for many smaller financial institutions globally. It also has a lot of, unintended consequences in that space. So let's talk about a bit of how technology can come in and step into helping to solve this particular problem. So from where I come from sitting in the compliance officer space, from an AMLCO, we have a lot of requirements, right? The regulations have a lot of requirements that they put on the financial institutions that, really hinder our day-to-day and really puts a lot of work and takes away from what we're really trying to focus on, which is fighting financial crime, preventing money laundering, keeping the bad actors out of the, out of our industry, right? So what we want to see is how technology can take some of this, the brunt of this work away from us. I speak for myself as a compliance officer and from others here, right? So with that, I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about what we would like to see in an ideal world. So if I were, if I had the ability to go ahead and have everything on my wish list as a compliance officer to help me in my day-to-day, what would I like to see? I would like to have, full access to full see-through of a transaction, right? From, from the sending institution to the receiving institution, the receiver, the recipient, the disperser, the full picture of this transaction. And also, if I'm at the institutional level, I'd like to see it from the other end as well. But we know that there's a lot of issues with respect to sharing of data, with respect to some of the personal information that is being used, and how we move that around. So if I am sitting in that seat, how can I get this done? How can I get the full see-through capabilities? How can I get it in real time? How can I see all of these very small day-to-day tasks automated? So if I can see that, if I can, go ahead and have, all of my wishes granted, this is what I would like to see. Now, I know that for many of us, when our day-to-day, we're, heads down, focused on the work, and we don't really get to look around to see what's available. I mean, I know that I've spent a lot of time, just manually doing things because, it's really hard to see what's available out there. It's hard to get a new vendor approved. It's hard to get budget for compliance. I know, a nightmare. I speak from experience as well. It's very difficult to get some of these wish list items done with the current, market conditions. So let's see how technology can help us with that. So right now, I'm speaking from Payall's perspective, and we're a cross-border processor. So essentially, we are a payment orchestrator, right? We connect the different rails, but we are also a compliance orchestrator. So we kind of connect a lot of the vendors that you see here that are providing all these great services and a lot of, these, best-in-class different tech solutions. We're kind of an integrator for that as well. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and jump and show you a little bit of what I mean of, how we could go ahead and address some of these different things that we'd like to see. Some of this stuff is, we would never see because we're not out there currently looking for different providers for different things as a compliance officer. But when we do have the ability to lift our heads up from what we're doing and see what's currently out there, you'd be surprised at how far tech can really help us in our day-to-day. And I'm going to show you a little bit of what that is. because, let's take advantage of a little time that we can go ahead and see how tech can help us. And we're going to go ahead and do a quick little demo of some of the key points that, for me in my day-to-day, help me immensely. I'm going to cover a little bit of, KYC and KYB, know your customer, know your business, as well as some of the stuff that we can automate at the transaction level, which we all know we spend our lives reviewing alerts, reviewing, doing investigations, filing the SARs. These things are very time consuming, and we do see that there is technology that is available to kind of facilitate and smooth out this process to make us much more efficient. So just quickly, I want to highlight some of the KYC and KYB capabilities that are currently out there. Again, this is tech that's already existing. It's not something that is in the future wish list item. This is here. What I'm showing you right now is a bit of our Payall dynamic digital boarding platform. It's a white label solution, but what I really like to highlight is something in particular on the officers and owners. Here we're able to actually automate the collection of some of this information that you normally would have to have a customer submit an application, upload documents, run verifications, do the biometrics, all of that. And again, this is something that's currently available. You can actually automate this. So for me, it actually helps out my day immensely. Instead of having to send out emails back and forth to go back with the customer, to the relationship officer, to the banker, again, we have this ability to go ahead and just have them collected all in one particular portal securely. You get to have all of your consents, terms and conditions, legal disclosures approved and consented to. You get everything in one place. And again, this is fully configurable. So every time that I work with a different financial institution, I can actually configure this for their needs. So there's no need to just use our universal approach. You can actually configure this to your institution, to your financial institution. So as you can see here, we can collect information on the officers and owners. You can collect the documentation necessary. You can actually turn on biometrics if you'd like to go ahead and have the biometrics connected to make sure that you verify that the person that is uploading this information is in fact the customer that you are onboarding. So all of this is currently available. These are tools at your disposal that it's actually going to facilitate and improve your day-to-day experience as a compliance officer. You're able to have all of this ready for your review in one step, in one shot. By the time that I get to an application, I'm going through and checking for, missing, signatures, missing fields that weren't completed. I'm looking for documents that are missing. Again, all of this is here. And we even have the ability to connect to other providers that actually feed in some of this information into our tool. So you don't even need to have another separate integration project to bring in another provider. You can actually just go ahead and connect it through our integrator, and it speeds up your process completely. And you have access to documents that are available from government databases. You'd have access to, again, the biometrics. You'd have access to a lot of this information is publicly available, brought into one place. No need to go to separate different sources or databases or vendor solutions to go ahead and pull this. This makes your day so much faster. And again, this is already available. This is something that, it's turnkey. You can definitely just, plug and play. And it's something that, every time I look at different, solutions, I always have the same issue, right? This fixes one little piece of my problem, right? And this would be great for this little piece right here. But how do I get the most, capabilities in one shot? And our compliance orchestrator really does this. So this is something that, you can see immediately the burden being lifted of some of our manual day-to-day tasks. Another thing I'd like to highlight is I don't know how many financial institutions, well, now with the de-risking, we do see a lot fewer financial institutions in the cross-border payment space. But if you are in the cross-border payment space, like some of my clients are, it's very difficult to onboard other financial institutions and fintechs, and even sometimes vendors, right? When we're onboarding new vendors, you have a whole due diligence requirement, right? You have due diligence checklist, you have documentation requirements, you're going to have an AML questionnaire, a Wolfsburg questionnaire. You have a ton of things that you would also require in order to onboard these particular types of institutions. Well, you can also automate that. I mean, I'm showing you now one that we've done for a client that is very, very helpful. They've actually automated their entire onboarding due diligence for vendors and financial institutions and fintechs. As you can see there, you have automated the full section on compliance and risk, critical infrastructure, Wolfsburg questionnaire. These are things that you would have had to go back and forth through email, through unsecure methods to go ahead and collect and obtain. Here, you can actually just automate that and, go ahead and just have it all ready for you at the time that you're reviewing your application. So this is another really cool feature that a lot of people don't know is even available, but you can. You absolutely can get some of this stuff automated, even without going through your whole, tech department to do a full, development project, having 12 months to 18 months for integration, and needing a budget and approvals at all levels. This is something that you can just turnkey, turn on, and use. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and jump. This is a bit of what's available in KYC, KYB, but what about those checks and validations that we're always requiring to do? What do we do with that? Again, from a day-to-day perspective, I still have to log into a different portal, download my verifications, go ahead and run my sanction screenings, global checks, adverse media, PEP, all of those, right? So how about if we can have all of that ready for us at the time that we're going to review the application? So we have a customer on board. They submit their application, whether it's through a white label solution or they do it through, whatever back office application that you guys provide to your clients. Well, what if all of these verifications were, automatically run and ready for you when you're ready to review? Again, that's another thing that's available. I mean, that's something that we already have today. This tech exists. So what does it look like? This is what it looks like. As you can see here, this is kind of the back office portal for a financial institution. But here in this portal, you can see all of the data that was submitted in the application, again, whether through a white label solution or whether you do it manually through an application process. All of this would be here, but the minute that you put it in and you hit submit on it, you're going to have all your verifications run automatically. So here, for example, let's jump into one of the officers or owners, and let's take a look at some of those verifications. Again, these are just a few, for example, to just show you what's really available out there. And here you can see this particular officer. You have all the information that they submitted on their application here. You can see the documents here. You need to go back to another database to find it, to pull it up, to look at the ID. It's right here. And as well as if you scroll down, you can see the validations that we have turned on for demonstration purposes. So here we have the global sanction screening and watch list checks. We have person identity checks, that includes biometrics, and we also have the document validation, the ID document validation. These are things, again, that are provided by many different vendors, and it's great. I mean, we use best-in-class vendors as well, so this is not something that is, proprietary to us. We're just the compliance orchestrator, right? We bring them all into one place, so you have the access to best-in-class providers for each of these checks and validations, all in one place, right? Without having to connect to 5 or 6 different vendors. We see a lot of the best-in-class ones here. But again, we bring them all into one place for you. And when I go in to review this application, I already have this here. I can check, for example, a potential PEP hit. I can go ahead and check the source data. I can see the description. I can go directly there if I need more information, and back and forth. So this is something that is very helpful for purposes of my day-to-day and for many of my colleagues. So this is something that, again, until I got into this space, I really hadn't seen that the tech for this was actually available. I mean, many of us are still doing this on, download and save PDFs and attach it to the file and saving it on a shared drive somewhere, which is incredibly inefficient. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and also jump into, let's go back out. Let's look at the verifications available for businesses, because not only do we have the ability to configure it for the officers and owners, but also at the business level. So we're able to capture complex ownership structures. So you're able to do that. I mean, before having to have an org chart or a diagram with the different company ownerships, you can actually do it here. As they enter that information here, it actually populates for you, and you're able to see the information on both the businesses that own the main client, as well as their ultimate beneficial owners and officers. So this is something that's very difficult to capture, typically very manual, but the tech is there for us to make this process a lot smoother for our clients, for our compliance officers. So as you can see here, we can also run some checks on the business. You can configure it for the individuals of those businesses. All of that would be there for you. You would be able to see all of the business watch list screenings against the global lists. You can configure those lists. You can connect to different vendors that you'd prefer. The same thing with the business verifications. We're able to reach out to government databases to collect some information for you. If you don't want to have the customer upload those documents for you and they're available through particular databases, you can actually facilitate the onboarding of your customer by actually collecting it yourself, reaching out and actually pulling those documents that are available. And actually making the process much smoother for your client and a better user experience from the client's perspective. The same thing, we're also able to rerun these verifications. So if you're reviewing an application, it takes too long, you went back, you got some documents, it took them a while to send them back, we know how the process goes, and it took too long, you can rerun those verifications and have a fresh set of reviews done for you. So this is something that you can go ahead and automate and have it ready for you when you go into review. Again, something that would make our lives, our day-to-day so much easier, and it is available, something that is, very easy to work with. Let's also show a little bit of let's show the documents. That's something that's the bane of my existence, but I hope not everyone else's. Documents. How difficult is it to collect documents from clients? Sometimes they're too heavy, they're too blurry, they're too difficult, they don't find it, where do they send it? How do they upload it? Again, we have that ability, the feature to go ahead and help you do that all through here securely. They're able to upload it through the secure portal. If you see that the document is not responsive to what you're asking for, or if you see that the document is too blurry, it's incomplete or so on, you can actually take action from here. Avoid having to reach back out to the banker, to the relationship officer, and so on, and just go ahead and send out the message to the end user. The end user would get a message. You can go ahead and put your comments, and it would ask them to log into their secure portal and upload it to wherever you'd like them to upload it to. Again, could take very heavy files. Some of these documents are very, very heavy. Sometimes they're very difficult formats to upload. Again, you can configure that to allow your end user to upload it in any way that you want. So again, this is something that, used to drive me crazy. So I know that it's a pain point for a lot of us. And again, this has totally resolved that issue. There's a full audit trail, so whenever you do have an examination or an audit, you would have everything at your fingertips. It would all be there for purposes of providing it as part of your sample. Another cool thing is that you can go ahead and see the document from there. You can put an expiration date. Actually, you can configure this for your periodic reviews. So let's say based on the risk level of the client, you have to do a 12-month review, you have to do a 24-month review, and so on. You can actually configure that here, and it will actually prepare the client for you for a periodic review of the profile in 12 months, 24 months, or 36 months. So by the time that this comes up for review, the system's already requested from the client the documentation that you would require to be updated. There would be securely uploaded, and you would have it there for your review at the moment that you're ready to review this. So again, there's a couple of different things that little things that make our lives a little bit easier, right? Let's also take a look at some of the Know Your Transaction. Now I'm going to go ahead and transition a bit over to the cross-border payments piece. And again, this we use for cross-border payments today. We also use it for some of the domestic payments in different jurisdictions. It's essentially just Know Your Transaction. Now, what do we mean by Know Your Transaction? Know Your Transaction really talks about the different rules and requirements that we check, as we're processing payments per our either jurisdictional requirements or our compliance requirements, things that we check right before a payment can go out. Now, this does delay payments quite a bit, right? Many payments require supporting documentation, require additional reviews, sanction screenings, and so on, which removes the ability to actually process payments in real time. With this, we can actually configure many of these checklist items that we currently do and currently process, make them pre-transaction, make them in real time, and actually payments can go out within minutes. So if everything is, is cleared, if all the rules and all of the configuration is checked off, everything is approved, the payment can go out in minutes. So that's something that's unheard of in the cross-border space because many of these jurisdictions have conflicting requirements. So if I'm sending a payment to one jurisdiction that has a different requirement from where I'm located, I need to wait till my partner institution, my correspondent bank tells me I need this, this, and this. This payment's going to be held up for X amount of time. It's going to be in limbo somewhere. God knows we'll never know where it is or who held it up. Here, you can actually provide full see-through capabilities to your partner institutions. You're able to see who's holding up the payment. You're able to see which trigger held up this payment and put it into queue. These are things that facilitate the relationship between the two parties. A payment won't go out until both parties are fully satisfied that their rules and requirements have been met. I can also see if I'm originating the payment, I can see what it is that I need in order to send that payment to that country before the payment goes out. So as my customer is inputting their information, or as my back office is inputting the information for this payment, I'll be able to know exactly what's going to be needed. If there's a supporting document, if there's a check that needs to be done, I can go ahead and configure all of those things and automate them for purposes of my back office and my client. So this is something that, again, would make our lives so much easier. It's currently available, something that we didn't even know was there, because it's very difficult to get the word out and to really see how tech can really facilitate and help us along the way. And I hope that I can just, I've shown you just a little bit of what tech can do. We haven't even gotten into, AI and those capabilities. But again, this is just some of the main pain points that we see that financial institutions are dealing with in order to, that's caused them to go ahead and de-risk or debank some of these other partner institutions. They'd rather just close down the business than invest in, in the possibility of mitigating that risk through technology. And with that said, my time is up. Thank you very much. I hope I've given you a little bit to think about. And if you have any questions, please let me know.